Welcome. You've arrived at a quiet edge of the world, a place of gold dust, slow caravans, and questions that echo across desert winds. Tonight, we follow a queen. Her name is remembered, but not always understood. The Queen of Sheba, a traveler, a ruler, a seeker of wisdom who once crossed scorching sands to stand before the wisest man on earth. This is not a story of war or conquest. It is a story of presence, of inquiry, of sacred wonder, shared between two souls beneath carved cedar beams. In tonight's journey, we will walk through a world perfumed with frankincense and shaded by palm leaves. Then we'll travel beside her through ancient kingdoms and whispered riddles. We'll peer into legend and listen for the arc. And finally, we will compare the silent grace of Sheba's journey to the thunder of Solomon's court. Breathe deeply. Let the heat soften your limbs. Let the stillness take root. And let's begin with the rhythms of her daily world. Daily life in Sheba, imagine the sound of camels. Soft, rhythmic steps across the hot, packed earth. Their bells jingling like wind chimes in slow motion. You are deep in the Arabian desert. In the ancient kingdom of Saba, what we now call Yemen or Ethiopia, depending on the telling. This was the land of Sheba, a land shaped by sunlight and sand, by terraced hillsides and trade routes that stretch toward the Red Sea, a place where incense trees bled fragrant resin, and gold was not rare, but refined. The queen's world began with ritual. At dawn, handmaidens would pour rosewater into polished basins. Curtains dyed deep crimson would sway gently in the breeze as servants moved in silence, preparing sweet dates, honeyed bread, and thick black coffee brewed with cardamom. Her robes would be layered linen and silk soft to the touch, yet commanding in hue. Adorned in gold cuffs and lapis lazuli, she walked with a slow grace, not hurried but deliberate. A ruler and a woman shaped by rhythm. The palace grounds echoed with both power and peace. Stonemasons chipped away at intricate reliefs, while women threaded jasmine into garlands, their laughter low and musical. Each morning she listened to ministers reading trade reports, shipments of myrrh, shipments of spices, to astronomers charting stars and moon paths, to whispers from priests about omens, about dreams. But this queen did not rule with superstition alone. She watched, she calculated, and she prepared. For beyond her kingdom's splendor, the Queen of Sheba understood something rare, that wealth fades, but wisdom endures. And so she studied ancient texts, scrolls, oral tales. She memorized proverbs. She posed riddles to her council. She held council beneath a canopy of fig trees, where even the breeze bowed to her curiosity. There was silence in her strength. And yet there was a whisper, a question that returned each night as she lay beneath woven linen. Is there one wiser? Is there a light beyond the edge of my kingdom? When she heard tales of a man in Jerusalem, Solomon, son of David, whose mind reflected the very wisdom of the divine, she did not hesitate. She gathered her treasures, her scrolls, her questions, and began to prepare for a journey not just across distance, but across understanding. Break time equals 3 south, greater than the days in Sheba were wrapped in warmth and sound. The rustle of palm fronds, the shimmer of gold coins, the hum of bees around citrus blossoms. But beneath it all, there was a stirring, a gentle urgency, a knowing that to rule well, one must seek deeper truth. And so, with camels packed, attendants gathered, and riddles written on parchment, the Queen of Sheba turned her face to the north and began the long, quiet journey toward wisdom. Biography, her arrival, questions for Solomon, and spiritual insights. The sun rose slowly over the hills of Judah, casting long golden light across stone walls and olive trees. Inside the city of Jerusalem, rumors stirred before the gates even opened. Merchants whispered of a caravan on the horizon. Dust clouds hung in the air like smoke. It was not war. It was something else entirely. She had come. The Queen of Sheba regal, veiled, bearing treasures, approached with quiet command. Her procession wound through narrow roads, camels adorned with crimson tassels, and men bearing gifts so rare they caught the light like fire. Frankincense, gold, carved ivory, polished onyx, and something even more valuable, questions. Solomon, king of Israel, was known for many things. His wealth, his wives, his horses, his temple, but above all, his wisdom. It was said he could read the heart of a man like one reads a scroll. It was said God had spoken to him in dreams. And so she came, not as a subject, not as a rival, but as a seeker. In the quiet of his stone palace, the air rich with cedar and incense, she sat across from him, and they talked. No fanfare, no court politics, just riddles and insight, questions and parables, an unfolding of minds like petals in bloom. The ancient texts say there was no question too hard for the king to answer, but she did not come to be impressed. She came to be matched, and when she saw the way his servants moved, the food at his table, the robes of the priests, the design of the temple, she did not envy him. She blessed him. Softly and with conviction, she said, "Blessed be the Lord your God, who delighted in you, to set you on the throne of Israel. Because the Lord loved Israel forever, he made you king to do justice and righteousness." This moment, often passed over in quick readings, was profound. A foreign queen, speaking divine blessing over the house of David. No conflict, no debate, just reverence, and perhaps recognition. It's said that she gave Solomon 120 talents of gold. That's nearly 4 tons. But her true gift was deeper, a mirror for Solomon's soul. A reminder that wisdom isn't just found in answers, but in the courage to seek them. Break time equals 3 south, greater than their conversations may have stretched late into the night by lamplight and under stars. Some say she tested him with riddles like, what is the strongest thing in the world? Or what increases the more it is shared? Others say she asked about the nature of the soul, the path to righteousness, the silence of God, and Solomon answered not just with knowledge, but with listening. There is a sacredness when 2 leaders meet not to conquer, but to commune, and when it was time to depart, she did not leave unchanged. Whether she stayed weeks or months, the Queen of Sheba left with more than she brought, and in her heart, perhaps not just admiration, but alignment, a shared devotion to wisdom, a quiet awe before the divine. She would return to her kingdom, bearing Solomon's words like seed in the desert, words that would ripple through generations. And some say she returned with something more, but that is a mystery. mystery Ethiopian legends, her son Menelik, and the Ark, even after her caravan vanished into the southern horizon. Her story lingered. The Bible offers only a few lines about her departure, but the echoes of her journey grew into legend. In Ethiopia, where the hills are carved with stone churches and the air smells of roasted coffee and frankincense, the Queen of Sheba is not just remembered, she is revered. There, she is called Makeda, and the story changes. They say she did not return alone. They say she bore a son, a child of union between two wisdom seekers, Solomon and Sheba. His name was Menelik, and he, like his mother, would one day journey to Jerusalem, but not as a seeker, as a descendant. The Ethiopian text, known as the Kebra, the glory of the kings, tells of a sacred inheritance. It claims Menelik was welcomed by Solomon, honored and loved. But after a time, he was sent home, and he did not return empty-handed. According to legend, Menelik took with him something more sacred than gold. He took the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, the very Ark said to contain the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments, said to be surrounded by angels, said to be so holy it can never be touched. The story says Solomon allowed it, or perhaps God ordained it, that the Ark found its resting place not in the temple, but in Axum, Ethiopia. To this day, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims that the Ark rests there still, guarded night and day by a single priest who may never leave the chapel. No one has seen it, and perhaps that's the point. For in the silence of mystery, faith breathes. Break time equals 3 South, greater than Makeda, Queen of Sheba, is honored not just as a queen, but as the mother of nations, a matriarch of divine lineage. Her image appears in Ethiopian art, her story woven into hymns, her name whispered in prayers. Some say her visit to Solomon was the spark that carried monotheism southward, that her wisdom became a seed planted in African soil. And others say that the union between Sheba and Solomon was not physical at all, but spiritual. A sacred alchemy between minds aligned, souls seeking God together. There is no proof, no scroll preserved in gold, no stone tablet etched with truth, only whispers, legends, and the lingering scent of incense in desert air. But perhaps that is enough. For the Queen of Sheba, whether mother of Menelik or simply a mystic traveler, stands as a symbol of sacred curiosity, of divine femininity, of wisdom that crosses borders and blesses all it touches. Break time equals 3 South, greater than her mysteries not meant to be solved, but sat with, held gently, like warm sand through open fingers. Contrast Solomon's court, Jerusalem vs. Sheba. Divine vs. earthly wisdom. The Queen of Sheba's journey was not just physical, it was a crossing of worlds. To walk through Jerusalem in Solomon's day was to be surrounded by magnificence, ivory thrones, golden shields, robes dyed purple from distant coasts. The temple gleamed like a crown upon the city, built with precision, layered in meaning. Its inner sanctum was a place even kings could not enter freely. Every morning, Solomon's court stirred with activity. Advisors whispered, servants rushed. The rhythms of power played like a well-rehearsed song. He ruled from a place of abundance. Silver was said to be as common as stone. He had fleets of ships. He had alliances, wives, treaties. He had everything, and yet He received her, not as an inconvenience, but as a mirror. For Sheba brought her own kind of wealth, not of conquest, but of presence. Not of buildings, but of insight. Her kingdom, far to the south, whether in Yemen or Ethiopia, was a land shaped by trade winds and storytelling, by desert stars and wells dug by hand. Her wisdom was quiet, observational, rooted in survival, womanhood, and the deep knowing born from watching seasons change. In Solomon's Jerusalem, she saw the grandeur of a people blessed, but in Sheba, she carried the grace of a people listening, two cultures, two monarchs, one divine thread running through them both. Break time equals 3 south, greater than, and so we begin to see a deeper contrast. Earthly wisdom seeks dominion. Divine wisdom seeks understanding. One builds towers. The other sits in silence. One gathers answers. The other learns which questions to ask. Solomon, for all his knowledge, would one day falter, his heart pulled toward other gods. His kingdom strained, but Sheba, she returned home, intact, honored, uncompromised, and that we find a whisper of something eternal. That spiritual authority doesn't always come with armies or temples. Sometimes it comes riding on a camel's back, wrapped in silence, bearing questions like gifts. Sheba's journey reminds us, true wisdom is not loud. It listens, it travels. It crosses deserts to meet with what is sacred. Break time equals 3 south, greater than the grandeur of Solomon would be remembered. But the quiet strength of Sheba would endure. Through legend, through lineage, through a story told beneath stars, a story you are now part of. Whenever you pause to seek, to wonder, to ask something no one else is asking, you echo her spirit. And so the caravan fades. The camels rest beneath quiet stars. The gold is unwrapped. The incense has burned low. And the Queen of Sheba returns to her world. But something in her has changed. And something in us changes too when we sit with her story. She came not for spectacle, but for substance. Not for answers, but for wisdom. She crossed deserts not in search of power, but to meet its source. Not a king, but the voice of God whispered through insight, etched into silence, resting in the rhythm between question and reply. Her story teaches us wisdom is a pilgrimage. It does not shout. It does not boast. It walks softly through royal courts and dusty roads alike. It dresses in linen or in silk, but always it listens. And maybe tonight, as you lie beneath your own canopy of stars, beneath ceilings instead of skies, you too are on a journey. Maybe it's not marked by spice roots or sacred riddles, but by your own quiet seeking, your longing for something deeper than answers. Let that longing stay with you. Let it rock you gently, like the swaying of the Queen's caravan. Let your breath settle, let your thoughts wander, and let the mysteries rest for now. Because in the stillness, in the soft hush of night, wisdom comes. Thank you for walking with her. Sleep well, dear traveler. You're seen. You are safe, and like Sheba, you are guided. Good night.